Kia ora, Aotearoa. Welcome, whānau, to the War on News, your weekly sacred cows law and assault on current affairs, being live from the Palatial Stratus News Bunker, buried deep beneath the heart of the Greyland Republic. If this show is being secretly filmed by the police, get a profile shot. I have a noble nose. In tonight's political media crimes against reason kill zone, Urewera terrorism fast becomes justification for a police state. Colonel Gaddafi is impressed. Government dumped jury trials while Rugby World Cup distracts nation. Dick Cheney is in awe. Mandatory DNA samples to be taken for mere arrests. Dr. Evil is aroused. Plus this week's Sex in the Super City and this week's Wanko of the Week award. Leading the War on News this week, brothers and sisters, the International Monetary Fund announced on Monday that the end is nigh. That's right, the four horsemen of the financial apocalypse are galloping our way as the low-tax deregulation Milton Friedman free market dogma that crashed the 2008 global economy finally brings all the vampire chickens of death home to roost. Turns out all that corporate debt our government's picked up as sovereign debt won't work after all. That sharp pain you're feeling in your stomach right now is Adam Smith's invisible hand punching you in the guts. Note though, even the IMF's gloomy forecast is best case scenario. They predict 2.5% US growth this year. Now they are forecasting 1.5%, and that 1.5% will only happen if the US can lift its current weak growth rate of 0.7%. So actually, it can get worse. A lot worse. Why are we adopting more free market ideology when that free market ideology just blew its brains out all over the floor? To the headlines, whānau. Let me see if I can get this completely straight. Following the Urewera fiasco headed by a police commissioner who previously chased a coven of satanic witches in Christchurch, which convicted Peter Ellis, and I'm sure one of our worst miscarriages of justice in this country's history, the Supreme Court throws out the case against most of those arrested in the Urewera case because, staggeringly, it turns out that the police based their paranoia on evidence they illegally gained. So, what is the response from the government? Even though the cops have been caught out spying illegally on citizens, there is no apology, no offer of compensation. Their eye-watering response is to ram through under urgency retrospective legislation, making the illegal spying legal. Back it up here. The response to the fact the police illegally spied on New Zealanders is to ram through laws making that spying legal? This isn't a democracy. That's the foundations of a functioning police state. The police say this puts at risk 50 other cases. So what you're saying is that the police are currently illegally spying on 50 other New Zealanders, and because the police break the law so often, we should just ram through retrospective legislation to let them spy on us legally? Where does John Key get off with this shit? Why aren't we asking for an immediate review of the existing 50 cases of where the police are currently illegally spying? If they want this power, why not an immediate review of the current cases to see who they are using these powers against? No one wants organised crime winning in any sense, and we should do all we can to stomp the evil they do out. But this legislation doesn't do that. This legislation gives vast new powers to break into our homes and spy on all of us. To the headlines, whānau. You've got to hand it to National. Who else has the audacity to rob New Zealanders of one of their fundamental legal rights while the country is mesmerised by the Rugby World Cup and flash mob hackers? Beneath all the crap of how Simon Power has backed down over robbing New Zealanders of their legal right to silence, National have quietly dumped something as sacrosanct as your right to be judged by a jury. An attack that National do again and again and again. They suggest something so 100% crazy and right-wing that it would make Genghis Khan blush, so when they implement 80% crazy, it looks like a better deal. They did it with mining by suggesting Great Barrier when they never seriously were going to mine Great Barrier. They did it with forcing mothers back to work weeks after the birth of a child, and they've done it here by removing jury trials for sentences of 2 years from their original 3 years. This will result in justice for the rich at the expense of the poor, as it will be the poor who will be frog marched through Simon Power's streamlined conveyor belt of cheap justice with hanging him judges who will rubber stamp guilty sentences for our ever-growing prison population. Justice just went from being blind to one-eyed. Moving on with the headlines, whānau, just when you didn't think it could get any worse. Just after the election, National's new powers allowing the police to take your DNA for just being arrested come into force. That's right, folks. You haven't been convicted of a crime, but under the new powers National have given the police, from December, anyone they arrest, the police can take your DNA off you. Why we are allowing the police to take your DNA for just being arrested? It's part of the bullshit vast expansion of police powers that sees New Zealand increasingly resemble a South Pacific Coomera Republic. The police should be allowed to take DNA from convicted criminals who have proved by their crimes that they have lost a basic right not to be DNA recorded. But to take the DNA from every person the police arrest is odious and Orwellian. You can take my DNA from my dead cold hands. whānau, are you feeling sexy? It's Sex in the Super City time. Why does National hate Auckland so much? The second Len Brown shares his vision of public transport with Aucklanders, John Key is shooting it down. Surely, if anything the Rugby World Cup fiasco taught us was that public transport in Auckland is a double-sized turd of shit. Seeing as National rammed the Super City through under urgency and appointed all the transport and waterfront CCOs, the Rugby World Cup fiasco is their responsibility, and Len Brown is trying to fix it with a vision of a government not beholden to the road-building industrial complex who suck billions in tax funds for more pointless motorways rather than investment into public transport. John Key's response to Len Brown's vision has been that face you make when you pass a nasty fart. Rather than invest in Auckland and make our motorways more productive by lifting the mere 9% who use public transport daily, John Key would prefer to ignore the Super City he set up to continue appeasing the motorway building industry. Auckland has to shoulder more of the economic load while Christchurch is offline. The investment the Super City is advising appreciates that reality over and above the government's denial. whānau, let's finish the show by handing out this week's Wanko of the Week award. This week's Wanko of the Week, brothers and sisters, has to go to New Zealand's increasing resemblance of a police state. whānau, the search and surveillance bill is deeply controversial. It will allow the police to spy on anyone they define as a gang. The word conjures up mongrel mob, headhunters, black power. However, the definition of a gang is actually just 3 people who know each other. It will be Greenpeace members, Amnesty International press people, Oxfam supporters, and anyone else our paranoid cop force decides to lash out against. If the police have evidence of a crime, then they present that to a judge and get judicial oversight for a warrant. This bill allows the police to go on bloody fishing expeditions into the private lives of us, their citizens. A state should not have that type of power. How on earth can a society that jumped up and down about bloody power-saving light bulbs and water-saving shower heads and not smacking your kids as the nanny state monster coming to take away your Coca-Cola and McDonald's, yet not a whimper when the state grants its police force unparalleled spying powers? The government are ramming through vast police powers that collectively amount to the largest erosion of civil liberties ever to darken Parliament's door. And it's been done while the media are focused on manufactured Rugby World Cup chatter and Happy Feet's personal welfare. Come on, everyone! There's no way any one of you would have allowed nanny state Helen Clark to get away with half of this shit. That's it for tonight, folks. Don't forget, Citizen A plays Friday, 8 p.m, Freeview 21 and Sky 89. Follow me on my Citizen Bomber Twitter and Facebook site. It has all the shows posted up online and allows you to befriend other like-minded citizens for romantic news moments. Good night, New Zealand. You stay classy, Aotearoa. Righto.